So it's been some time since the Balenciaga ad controversy, and I feel like all the information that we're going to get about it has probably been released. Although, honestly, I've been waiting for some insider info to drop. Regardless, now I think is a good time to look at this situation from a fashion perspective. This controversy is obviously bigger than fashion, has been covered and blown out of proportion by mainstream media up to the likes of Tucker Carlson, and it's caused a full-blown moral panic. I don't think Balenciaga are Satan worshippers or want to harm children, but I think their lack of adequate content moderation and desire to outdo themselves in their outrage marketing tactics meant that they had something like this coming to them sooner or later. But I've seen so many crazy reactions to this and not enough fair coverage that covers everything about this incident, including the ridiculous conspiracy theories. So let's look at everything. I'll just give a quick objective rundown on everything that happened and then give my own opinions and speculation. So the controversy started with two separate Balenciaga campaigns. One called Balenciaga Gift Shop, released on the 16th of November. This ad campaign was to advertise the gift shop section on the Balenciaga website, which is basically made up of some of their more basic, cheaper items for people to buy for the upcoming holiday season. The controversy was with the appearance of children in these ads next to and holding teddy bears dressed with what people are calling bondage BDSM gear. People also pointed out inappropriate items for children to be posing next to, such as beer cans and flasks. The second campaign, called the Balenciaga Harda robe campaign, was released on the 21st of November to advertise their Resort 23 collection, including the Balenciaga Adidas collaboration. The controversy here was with certain props used in the background of these shots. In this photo, a $3,000 Balenciaga Adidas hourglass handbag is featured on a desk, along with printed copies of the Supreme Court's 2008 decision in US versus Williams, a case that examined whether banning the pandering of child porn went against the US's First Amendment of freedom of speech. The conclusion being that the government can legitimately outlaw the pandering of material as child porn, even if the material is not in fact that. And so people were mad at the inclusion of these things, amongst other things I'll mention later, implying that Balenciaga was promoting and making light of child abuse and child porn and trafficking. And this controversy just spiraled so out of control into a full-on conspiracy put together by internet super sleuths.
Exposing the dark side of Balenciaga's new campaign. The last one will give you goosebumps. Notice the carpet. The carpet is in the exact same positioning and layout of an Ouija board. Tell me something demonic's not going on.
Balenciaga released a number of apologies a week after the first campaign aired, taking responsibility for the inappropriate styling on the gift shop campaign. They explained how the documents got on set of the other campaign shoot but didn't take responsibility at first. They announced that they were taking legal action against the production company and set designer responsible for creating that set. They later dropped the lawsuit and took responsibility for not reviewing the images before uploading them. Demna apologized for whatever his role was in all this as creative director. And finally, Balenciaga's chief executive officer, Cedric Charbit, released a statement talking about the actions Balenciaga is taking moving forward from the situation. The main takeaway for me being that Balenciaga has made their content moderation more stringent. They have nominated an image board internally and an external agency to assess their content. A lot of people who are aware about how brands operate on social media were very surprised by Balenciaga's lack of these things in place in the first place. It's insane that a brand as big as Balenciaga didn't already have adequate measures. Justine Leconte made a good video explaining how rigorously checked these photo shoots and campaigns are and how many people they have to go through to be approved. At a responsible brand, that is, maybe not at Balenciaga. So let me give some context around these shoots. So as I said, the campaigns were completely separate. The garderobe campaign was shot in July before the gift shop campaign, even though it was only released 5 days after. The gift shop campaign was shot in October by Gabriele Galimberti, who has previously released a photography book featuring images of children with their toys. A very innocent, heartwarming book, and the style of the gift shop campaign is very similar to Gabriele's style. Balenciaga probably reached out to him to do this campaign as it has to do with the holidays and toys. Although the set, props, and creative direction was by Balenciaga, not him. They just mimicked his style and asked him to shoot it. It was his first ever fashion shoot, and I've seen a lot of people blame him and said he could have not done it if he didn't want to. Well, everyone there, and there was definitely a lot of people there, could have said something or backed out. So I don't know why he in particular is getting the blame. In my opinion, in a situation like this, you blame the higher-ups who are paid a lot of money to manage people and make these kind of decisions and approve these images. They failed in this situation, not the people setting up the lights or taking the photos. The BDSM bears that were featured in this shoot were from Balenciaga's Spring-Summer 23 collection, and they weren't very controversial at that time. The style of them are very much in tune with Balenciaga's aesthetic, which has referenced BDSM bondage gear in past shows through the use of gimp suits, but not in this show where the bears are from. The collection that these are from reference Demna's past as a war refugee, which is why the models are bruised and walking through dirt. No BDSM or bondage is referenced anywhere in the collection, but there are tattered clothes, again in reference to fleeing refugees like Demna was at 10 years old when he was a child. And the bears are a part of this whole narrative, as if they're the tattered toys of fleeing refugee children. They're distressed and play up the punk look that the show has as well. Let's have a closer look at these bears. In my opinion, this bear is not a bondage bear. It's styled in a gothy punk style. I'm sure most people have seen teenage girls walking around like this with chokers and mesh tops, and most kids have seen this style in Roblox. In my opinion, it's not inappropriate. This bear with a harness on it also references punk, but admittedly, the harness does look like a BDSM style harness, especially in the way that it's styled. And I'm sure that that's where punk got it from as well. I would still attribute this feature to punk and that was Balenciaga's intention, because they've referenced punk harnesses in the past, but never in a BDSM way. However, in the hands of a child, yeah, this is inappropriate and distasteful for sure. I don't think this bear is inappropriate, but this, yes. The alcoholic items on set are also inexcusable. This whole shoot might have been better with a whole family rather than a single child. I 100% agree that this was an inappropriate campaign and a terrible decision by Balenciaga. So why did this happen? Well, I have two theories. Fashion Roadman mentioned this point on his live stream, which was great coverage, by the way. Fashion isn't a bubble from the rest of the world. I can see everyone on set not batting an eye on the bears because it's just another Balenciaga item. They're going for Gabrielle's style and just putting Balenciaga products in place of actual toys, not considering how it might be taken poorly by the public. This is why you have outsiders to assess and evaluate your content, because people inside the bubble may fail to see things outside of that context. And as I said, it's so crazy that Balenciaga didn't have that kind of content moderation in place properly already. My second theory, and I think this is why Balenciaga probably didn't have an adequate team to evaluate their content until now, has got to do with Balenciaga's main form of advertising being outrage marketing. Why would they want a team to tell them what might offend people and cause controversy if they literally want their things to go viral for being controversial? They have done controversial things time and time again. I think this theory is more likely what happened. I think Balenciaga knew that the shoot was going to be controversial, but went with it anyway because that's what they want. They probably didn't think it was going to be this controversial though, because they work in a bubble, and because of their carelessness they didn't see the documents and inappropriate material that was on the other campaign. Some things that back this theory up for me: Balenciaga only apologized and took down the campaigns on the 24th of November, over a week after the gift shop campaign was released, and only after the backlash was going very sour for them thanks to the Garderobe campaign enforcing theories of sexualizing children. A week. So the initial backlash didn't faze them. They were used to it. That's what they expect. Balenciaga didn't blame third parties either. They took responsibility for the styling of the shoot. Demna in his apology only mentioned the gift shop campaign, and even mentions how he likes to provoke people with his work, but this was not his intention. Clearly this was one step too far. Children with anything remotely sexual and inappropriate like alcohol is way too serious to be tackled by a fashion brand through an advertisement. In regards to the other campaign, the court documents from this photo were taken from a prop house and were said to be of fake court documents, but clearly they weren't. Balenciaga stated that they were probably using the filming of a drama series. The collection that this campaign was based on took place in the New York Stock Exchange, and a major theme was the fetishization of power and money, which, yes, had reference to BDSM gimp suits, but had nothing to do with the gift shop campaign. This is why the shoot took place in an office, and these papers are clearly laid out like lawyers' papers. However, remember that this shoot was done months before the gift shop campaign. The set designer and production company that Balenciaga was going to sue had nothing to do with the gift shop campaign. It was stupid for Balenciaga to sue anyone but themselves. They get the final approval and should do the final checks on all the images. Balenciaga had these images for so long, and clearly nobody had decided to read what might be on the irrelevant background documents. Or maybe someone did and didn't think it mattered. Personally, I don't think it does matter, and I think the only reason people are upset about the inclusion of these documents is the relation that it had to the gift shop campaign, which was released around the same time, even though this campaign had no images of children in any way. The documents literally say that the promotion of child porn is illegal, and I would hardly say that Balenciaga including one slightly sexually styled bear and alcohol products with kids is at all promotion of child abuse or porn. Just a really unfortunate coincidence and series of decisions from Balenciaga. Otherwise, I don't think people would have noticed the document. Or people may have noticed and be like, huh, weird document to put in the background, but whatever. Although I think the backlash towards Balenciaga because of these campaigns and the lack of oversight is justified, even if I think the document alone isn't much of a problem. The document paired with the other images is a problem because it demonstrates ignorance and a lack of care on Balenciaga's part. Again, this is where a content moderation team comes in and scrutinizes everything. They probably said, hey, we found this in the background of one of the images. Maybe not the best document you could have picked. Could lead to some people being upset. Especially do not release it in conjunction with that other shoot with the kids holding the the bears, that we also mentioned might offend some people. That would be a PR nightmare. And that's it, right? A miscalled styling choice and an unfortunate prop placement that should have been caught. Balenciaga admitted fault and apologized. No, because if there is one coincidence, that means there must be more. Which leads to a host of terrible far-right and religious fundamentalist conspiracy theories on Twitter, full of misinformation, or that are just plain stupid. I find them both funny and terrifying how people have jumped to some of these conclusions. I don't want to have to defend Balenciaga, but goddamn, these people have really taken the light away from the issue at hand. Let's do a quick conspiracy crackdown on a couple of these bonkers theories. Bonkers. People have said that this tape says Baal, as in Baal, the Abrahamic demon, and that Balenciaga purposely wrote it on this tape to channel him. This is the same tape that Kim Kardashian wore around her body that says Balenciaga repeatedly, and a bit of the tape was ripped off, and the underneath part with the word Balenciaga repeating was showing, which overlapped with the top part of the tape to make it look like it said Baal. The picture isn't great quality, but you can clearly see the L under the above A. If I was on this shoot, I would have probably spun the tape around because that would just kind of annoy me from an aesthetic perspective. So you know what, since they didn't do that, yeah, Devil Worshippers is a fair label for sure. Next, a diploma in the background of one of the Harda robe campaign photos has the name John Phillips Fisher on it, a convicted child molester. He is not famous in any way and barely any searches come up with information on him except for the ones tying him to Balenciaga that have just started to flood the internet. I admit, it is another weird coincidence and Balenciaga should not have overlooked this. However, maybe, just maybe, this diploma prop was sourced from the same place that the documents were. All I'm saying is look out for any criminal drama shows that tackle pedophilia and child porn in the next year and pay attention to the props because I feel like we may see these exact props again. I think this again just shows recklessness on Balenciaga's have to check where the props came from and what they say. It's honestly ridiculous at this point. Maybe I shouldn't blame the conspiracy theorists for jumping to conclusions like this. No, I should. I absolutely should. Books were featured as desk props in the Harda robe campaign. Oh no. One from Belgian artist Michael Bormans called Fire from the Sun. The David Zwirner Gallery, who have hosted paintings from this book, described it as toddlers engaged in playful but mysterious acts with sinister overtones and insinuations of violence. Except even the New York Times got it wrong and corrected themselves. It was another book called As Sweet as It Gets by Michael Bormans, which is just a compilation of his works featuring only one or two sinister child paintings. I didn't know we were playing like Wikipedia race to connect Balenciaga to anything to do with children. These are just obscure art books that actually look quite interesting if you look into them. Even so, what is wrong with Fire from the Sun? I won't show the paintings on YouTube, but read the description. There's clearly no ill intent. Why would a gallery with locations all around the world host an exhibition about the artist's work in this book if anything about it was morally wrong or pedophilic? Or if the artist himself was in any way? Renaissance painters also painted naked children. Oh, but they're cherubs, not kids. They represent angels. And yeah, and Borman's paintings aren't kids either. They're little demons. There's a difference. Finally, Loda Volkova, a stylist who worked closely with Demna at Vêtements and for some time at Balenciaga, was somehow dragged into this. This egregiously wrong tweet got over 20,000 likes, even though Loda Volkova was never head designer, stopped working with Balenciaga in 2018 and so has nothing to do with any recent campaigns. And for the cherry on top, this picture is of a model from Beijing Fashion Week in 2016. Not Loda Volkova. Enough said. I don't even know what to think of this. Where did this person get this information? How do you be so wrong? And now Loda Volkova is currently being witch hunted for her use of evil imagery on her Instagram, which is equally ridiculous. Mainly because she has absolutely nothing to do with Balenciaga. She went private and deleted posts to avoid abuse, but apparently that means she's hiding stuff. Here's my thoughts. Satanic and weird imagery isn't inherently evil. It's as if there isn't more to aesthetic and art than their surface level meanings. I promise we'll get back to fashion soon, but let me look at this idea of devil imagery being so unexcusably evil. I wonder how many people have actually looked into the Church of Satan in the US. Here's what it says on their website. Yes, they have a website. You think that Satanists would want to keep themselves private, right? To us, Satan is the symbol that best suits the nature of we, who are carnal by birth. People who feel no battles raging between our thoughts and feelings. We do not embrace the concept of a soul imprisoned in a body. He represents pride, liberty, and individualism. We Satanists are thus our own gods, and as beneficent deities, we can offer love to those who deserve it and deliver our wrath, within reasonable limits, upon those who seek to cause us, or that which we cherish, harm. Fuck, these Satanists sound lovely. I would love to have a Satanist neighbor. I value those things too. Don't most people? If Loda and Balenciaga are Satanists by these standards, That's fine by me. Using devil imagery to commit evil is bad, just as using positive religious imagery to mask evil is bad. As if Christianity doesn't have a literal history of child molestation, the issue at hand. I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Zdzisław Beksiński is one of my favorite artists for his grim dystopian surrealism. He has never been accused of any sort of immoral acts. Maybe we should focus on actual issues at hand rather than speculate about satanic pedophile rings. I never saw Jeffrey Epstein be connected to Satanism. His island temple had a picture of the Pope, not the devil. Oh, remember Pizzagate? Yeah, those people didn't go away, they just got bigger. Child abuse, child porn, and trafficking is a terrible, widespread, and underreported problem. Balenciaga and their advertising has nothing to do with it. This controversy is just an excuse for conspiracy theorists to get mad at things that they don't like. They'll scream about child abuse but still buy clothes and other products like chocolate from companies that have used child labor or still use child labor. One of the most common forms of trafficking is forced labor. They don't care about the children, they care about their children. They want their children to not be exposed to these alternative aesthetics because anything to do with sex, the devil, or LGBTQ+ is inherently wrong to them. I'm not talking about or excusing the Balenciaga campaigns here, to be clear. I'm talking about the absolute reaches I've been seeing on social media. It's so stupid how I now feel like I'm standing up for Balenciaga, although they have still made a series of grievous errors that should not be overlooked. They shouldn't have done what they did, but this is being way overblown. That's all I'm going to say about that part of the controversy. I feel like it had to be addressed. So let's get back to the fashion side and finish with what's going to happen next. I'm not pro Balenciaga. I was interested in Demna and the brand in the past, but frankly, I haven't liked it for a while. You could say I hate watch what they do because I'm already invested. When this controversy first happened, I literally thought, oh, here we go again. But this time it seems that more people were more upset. And I think the reactions, with exception to the conspiracy theorists, are mostly justified. This is the exact type of attention that Balenciaga looks for. But this time, oops, lapse of judgment. We're so sorry. They're sorry that this gimmick of theirs didn't turn out how they wanted it to. Outraging people with overpriced, heavily distressed sneakers? Sure, works a couple times. But the biggest flaw with this type of marketing is that you need to keep outdoing yourself, which leads to poor decisions. Outraging people by exposing children to inappropriate objects, I don't see how that could ever have worked in Balenciaga's favor. The documents, I do believe, were purely accidental, but just highlight Balenciaga's carelessness. And this whole thing doesn't just reflect badly on Balenciaga, it reflects badly on all of fashion. I think this might mark the end of Balenciaga's time in the spotlight. Obviously, Balenciaga isn't going to go bankrupt, but I think they will lose the spotlight they've dominated in social media over the last couple of years. This is again why I'm so shocked that they didn't have some sort of adequate social media moderation team in place. While their position on social media is big, it's also fragile, because it seems the brand is generally built on hype and relevance rather than on heritage or, in my opinion, much substance. They rely on social media a lot, while a brand like Gucci or Louis Vuitton does not. I know Cristobal Balenciaga is very famous and loved, but I don't think that modern day Balenciaga plays into their heritage all that much, and he's much of a draw. The general mood around Demna's vision in the fashion community from my perspective is that people are getting fed up with the gimmicks and virtue signaling that are prioritized in his design. Not to discredit his experiences as a war refugee or as a fashion designer, but I do think a lot of his shows are very virtue signally. Something like this controversy might spread that feeling to the public and the not so loyal supporters of Balenciaga. This controversy, in my opinion, is also bigger than many that we've seen in the past due to the nature of it being around children. As unfortunately, not as many people care as deeply about racism or homophobia because it doesn't directly affect them. But the children, everyone cares about the children. The Christmas holiday season is a huge time for any company that sells products, so a hit in sales in this quarter is really bad. But brands recover for the most part. I don't think this is going to go the way that Gucci's blackface sweater did, where the bottom line didn't seem to suffer that much. I think this will be more like Dolce & Gabbana's backlash after an insensitive Chinese ad and further offensive handling of the backlash. Dolce & Gabbana have still not reached the sales levels that they had in China before the controversy. And since the two shits that are Dolce and Gabbana own and design for the brand, nobody got fired. Oh yeah, and Kim Kardashian still works with them the same way that she's going to continue to work with Balenciaga. I think Balenciaga will suffer financially from this, and I don't think that Demna's position is that secure either. However, the conglomerate owner of Balenciaga, Kering, recently decided to part ways with Gucci's creative director, Alessandro Michele, despite Gucci exhibiting, as Kering called it, healthy growth in the third quarter of 2022. This dismissal definitely buys Demna some time, as lacking two creative directors is not something that Kering wants to end up with. But in my opinion, I think we might see a reorganization at Balenciaga in 2023, unless Demna finds a way to redeem himself and excite people in a different way. Maybe he'll just leave on his own terms. And just to be clear, I'm not calling for him to leave or cancel him or the brand. These are just my predictions. I really debated whether or not I should talk about this, but I decided that there wasn't enough fashion people talking about this topic with the nuance that I think it deserves on all aspects of the controversy. Fashion Roman did a great live stream on it, but it was over an hour long, so I'm sure a lot of people might have passed on that. Justine Leconte also had good insight on how brand campaigns are managed and how bad Balenciaga messed up by normal standards. Anyway, thanks for watching. I also posted another video about my favorite upcoming Instagram brands on my Patreon if you want to check that out, and all the other videos that I have on there. Cool. Stay fresh and Hail Satan.